Hey there, and welcome to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan. This podcast is inspired by over 10 years in the beauty industry and the stories shared between a beauty professional and her clients. The type of girl talk that only happens behind closed doors or in the chair. Along with hilarious stories based on real life and the dating world, I'll be dishing out all of the secrets on self-care, health, and fitness. As a longtime lash extension artist turned health and fitness coach, I'm passionate about helping you view healthcare as self-care through nutrition, lifestyle, mindset, movement, stress management, and more. So grab a drink and a snack and come join me for a laugh. Welcome back, Crushers. Welcome back to Crushing with Abby O. I'm your host, Abby O'Sullivan, and I hope that you're having an amazing day. Today on the podcast, we have a very special guest, and it's the very first of this kind of episode. Today's guest is Jessica Bennett. She has been a client of mine for 3 years now, and this is the very first client feature on the Crushing podcast. I'm so excited for it, and I can't wait to do more of these. Jessica is a faculty librarian at a university and a part-time esthetician with not only a brick and mortar business, but also an online business very soon in the education side of skincare, which you'll hear about in the episode. Jessica is also a foster mom to kittens whenever they are in need. I'll let Jessica share her story of why she wanted to start coaching and how it's changed and made a difference in her life. But I do want you to know, and I want Jessica to know that I'm very proud of you. I've seen the mindset shift, and I love that it makes you feel so empowered to strength train and have other forms for stress relief that you didn't have before. And I know what an outlet that's been for you. Love having you as a client and as a friend. Everyone, please welcome Jessica to the podcast. Welcome, Jessica, to the podcast. It's so good to have you here today.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So today we are talking about your experience with coaching with me. But first, let's let the listeners know who you are. What is your background? What do you do for a living? What are some of your hobbies?
Well, I'm Jessica. I've known Abby a long time, and I do a lot of things. I'm a full-time librarian at an mid-sized academic university, and I am an esthetician part-time. Now part-time. I was an esthetician full-time for almost a decade, and now I do kind of both. So I have a desk job and another sitting job. Both require lots of repetitive hand motions.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And what has been your relationship with food and exercise over the years?
So I'm going to take those separately because until more recently, it was either one or the other that was a focus. And food has been a little tricky because I've always enjoyed eating healthy. Like, I like vegetables, I like healthy foods, but I also like trying new things and I love sweets. And it would be I was either enjoying food or I was not enjoying food. So if I was trying to lose weight ever, it was a not enjoying food stage because I felt like I had to totally restrict myself and cut out a lot of the things that I love.
Mm-hmm.
Exercise, gosh, I wasn't super active in high school except for 2 years of color guard, which were very active. But then entering my 20s and my metabolism kind of, stuttered for the first time. I did try and become more active. Definitely started with some Carmen Electra home workouts.
Little throwback to Carmen Electra.
Oh, yeah.
That's only been mentioned on the podcast at least once before.
How you know it's good.
Yeah, they were fun.
They were great fun. And, it was a good non-threatening kind of entree
Mm-hmm.
into working out because I
Absolutely.
didn't really have to until I hit my mid-20s. And then it became evident that my body wasn't going to be the way I wanted unless I worked out.
Mm-hmm.
but then joined a gym with really good classes and instructors. So that kind of helped me with more, um, more types of workouts and
Mhm.
fitness, including Zumba, spin class, some strength training, lots of things.
Yeah, so getting to try some things to kind of find out, like, have some variety and find out what worked well for you and what you like to do.
Yes. Yes.
What are your favorite modalities for exercise?
Well, that's a good question. I like a little bit of everything, I think, except like spin and biking. I can't do that. My butt goes numb too fast. So I can't do
Yeah.
that anymore. But I love yoga. That has been a constant for probably 15 years now because I love how it's both about building strength and like a body and mind.
Mhm,
So I enjoy that. I loved Zumba because I love to dance. That was a lot of fun. I haven't done that in years though.
mhm,
And I do love my strength training workouts. And I've discovered that I love deadlifts. They make me feel
mhm,
powerful. Like,
mhm.
yes, I'm a badass. I can do this.
You totally are. I love that. That's so fun. I think we should have a Carmen Electra. What were those called? It
Fit to
wasn't.
strip
Yeah, I was like, it's not called striptease, but that's kind of what it felt like.
almost. That's what you
uh,
worked up to.
I feel like we should have a little party in your basement.
I agree. I
And
would
because
totally post that.
I know when I did those, I was actually living back with my parents and I lived in the basement. I just did those in my room. And I
You
think
know,
go ahead.
I was gonna say they were convenient and that you could have a small space, little to no equipment, and you could get a sweat going.
Yeah. And it made you feel like fun and
Mhm.
sexy. I think that that was possibly probably my first like actually attempt at intentional exercise.
Mhm.
I would say. Because then I also
Yeah,
did some Pilates, like bar type stuff at home too with videos. And
yeah.
then I joined a curves. I lived in a really small town. That was the only thing. And you just like went around the circle. And that was, I mean, it is what it is. It was cool. It got me moving. So I felt somehow I felt more advanced than the other people. But even though
Oh,
I didn't really work out, I had no reason to feel entitled. But
you
I did
know,
feel a little, I mean, I think it's just because I was younger. So
there's that. There was a brief P90X phase.
oh
I don't know
yeah.
if you remember those,
I do.
but up until that point, that was probably like the most intensely I've ever worked out. And I don't know that I would have recommended that to myself looking back. But it was another thing that you could do at home
hmm
with fairly minimal equipment.
hmm so I became a coach a few years ago, listeners, and Jessica and I actually know each other from being in the aesthetics industry and working in the same spa. That's how we met. And I became a coach a few years ago, and you pretty quickly, well, I've used you as a guinea pig a lot of times. Happily, she obliges.
Me too. I need the
Uh,
help.
well, and when you came to me like a few years ago and you were looking to get back into it, or looking for a change, what were you going through, like mentally, physically in your life
Mm,
that really made you want to jump on that opportunity?
Gosh, I was trying to earlier sort of pinpoint some of the things because I know I was distinctly unhappy with myself. And it was like, "Oh, I don't even know where to start because I think at the time, I was a little heavier than I like to be. And I'd gone probably about a year without much intentional movement or workouts. And my eating had gotten, maybe while not horrible, I've never turned to fast food, it was not where I needed it to be to feel good. And I'd had a wrist injury. So
Mm-hmm.
that had really tripped me up in, I felt like I couldn't do anything. I was just sort of, gosh, I just felt kind of helpless and not happy and didn't really know how to start. because it was
Mhm.
kind of like my body had been betraying me
Mhm.
with like, oh, because not just my wrist, I also had my neck injury. I had the
Mhm.
bulging disc thing going on.
Mhm.
And that just left me not feeling good or like I could safely do anything for a hot minute.
Mhm. Yeah, it's hard when you have an injury. It creates like a little bit of well, it's that mental like I can't do anything and I don't want to hurt myself further. And
Hmm.
then also a little bit of not trusting yourself. Like I'm not sure if I should, what happens if I, make it worse. And I think that kind of
Yeah.
like settles into our brains too. Cause I've done
Yeah.
that to myself before, like overtrained and then injured myself. And then I'm kind of like, meh, well, since I
Hmm.
can't do that, like, I'm going to do anything.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. It was like, well, I don't want to make this worse.
Hmm.
Already awful.
And then just feeling like you can't do like what you want to as well.
Hmm.
It's hard.
Yeah.
So when you started then with coaching, it's been lots of like strength activities, guidance in that area.
Hmm.
And then more recently, just looking at more nutrition support. How has that made a difference in your life?
Well, it has made my health and wellness more of a priority. Even when it's not front burner,
Hmm.
still on the stove.
Hmm.
Maybe a silly analogy, but
No, I like
um,
it.
this last semester for me has been very hectic. So I haven't been, quite as on target with some of my like number of workouts a week or always tracking my meals. But, we're still talking about it throughout the week and I'm still thinking about it. Um, but, back when, gosh, has it been a year or two now? It has. We first started with the program, and I was able to, again, start working out and regaining some strength and trusting my body again. It's just, what's the word I'm looking for? It's a relief,
Hmm.
really, because you're like, okay, yes, my body can do the things that I want it to do. And I have outlined here for me how to do it. Hey, here's a modification if for some reason this first thing doesn't work. Like, oh, I can't use my wrist like that, but oh, I can do this.
Hmm.
Um, and, not having to be the one that comes up with all of that.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's a burden lifted.
I know.
Um,
I know as a client myself that's we just don't need any more decisions to make sometimes. And then
mm-mm,
it's so nice to have somebody else doing it for you.
yeah,
It's one reason that like I've had coaches before I became a coach. And the reason that I like to have them still is because we just don't necessarily need to have to make any more decisions at the end of our day when we've already made so many. And
yeah,
just having somebody that has that knowledge and you can just say, okay, cool, thanks, I'll do it.
exactly. It's like here's like, okay, Jessica, here you go, and I can be like, sure, I'm just gonna go because I, for a while was trying to do some things on my own, and it's not that I was totally bad at trying to think of things, but I also wasn't thinking as holistically as, a coach would. It doesn't hurt that you know me pretty well.
Mhm, yeah. I
That's
mean,
a plus.
and just to like clarify, just because we're friends does not mean that I pressured her. It's like I have
No,
other
no,
friends who do not who have chosen not to take advantage of that, and that's okay. Like, I mean, but I'm happy to help. And I'm happy to see that it has helped you with like your stress levels and just
mhm,
feeling like you have an outlet and seeing the shift in like how you feel about yourself because I've seen that like you were obviously happier having a way to take care of yourself than not.
oh yes, oh yes,
Yeah.
much much happier. It's night and day.
What are some of the key things that you've learned so far?
Well, this is one that we talked about a little bit earlier, and it's one thing that I'm really still working on. But it's just really to be kind to yourself, and um, our bodies do a lot for us, and no matter what the scale says. my body can do great things and is good, and I need to love it regardless. So that's a big one. It's not like I perfectly execute that every day, that
Mm-hmm.
feeling.
Yeah.
Um, but it's become more of a priority with coaching. Another key thing, just that it's as important for my mental and emotional health as it is for my physical health to have structured movement or
Mm-hmm.
intentional movement in my day. It's definitely not one dimensional for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's all the things. And just that I'm capable of quite a lot. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like,
Yeah, you are.
hey,
Tell us what
yeah,
you've done this season.
this season.
Yeah, tell us what you've done because I think that's such a perfect example of giving your of having to have the awareness to give yourself some grace when you feel like you
Mhm,
haven't been holding up, when you've had to put something a little bit on that slow burner, like you said earlier, it's still
mhm,
on the stove. I love that because it is, you're just switching things from the front burner to the back burner because there are different seasons of our life where we're going to feel busier. And generally when that happens, we tend to just like it's one or the other, all or nothing. But you've been able to, like, you're staying aware and you have something set place in your schedule, and I can have you share those in a minute, but just tell us what you've done like this semester, this season.
mhm. So early, and I say semester because again, that faculty
Hmm.
librarian piece, my life is measured by semesters, and fall
Yeah.
semester is always hectic just with teaching. But one of the first things that came up was my facial business moved from a spot that I'd been for 4 years. They decided to no longer continue as they were, but I wanted to continue doing facials because I love it. And I had already had the idea to have a skincare education business via YouTube.
Hmm.
So I kind of had a rough business outline, but it ended up being also a brick and mortar facial business. So I got that off the ground in 3 weeks, which was a lot.
Hmm.
Also fostered some baby kittens, two of which became very sick and required some pretty serious nursing. Um,
Was there were two different families, right? In this
this
semester?
this semester, were they
Or
both
was it
this
just
semester?
one?
I think it
Maybe
was
like
just
end of
one this
summer.
semester. There
Okay.
was one over the summer and one this semester that were just the four orphan
Hmm.
kittens.
Oh,
They were,
okay.
yeah, they were old enough that I didn't have to bottle feed them, but we still had two that were hit. They tried to fade on us. That's a kitten thing where
Hmm.
they fade and die, but we were able to nurse them back to health, which was wonderful. But that's a really big emotional um, thing
Hmm.
to do.
Yeah. If anyone out there has fostered animals, like I'm sure they can relate. Because I mean, you're taking them in and you hope that,
Mhm.
especially with the babies, like you hope they live.
Yeah.
And then you also have to, you give them back at some point. So you get
Yes.
like attached and you're taking
Yes.
care. And so there's all that, especially with little babies, like there's
Yeah.
that worry about them and making sure they're settled. And you
Hmm.
actually give up some of your exercise, like space for that.
Oh yeah. Gave up my
So,
workout room for them.
yeah.
They were too little to run free, and they needed a good space, so they got my workout space. And
Hmm. And I
yeah.
would say, just from observing and knowing you, like as a coach and as a friend, knowing that routine and having things sort of in place and knowing the plan is like
Hmm.
you're a planner. So that
Yeah.
is, it's important to you. And so having those disruptions, and even like, even if you're choosing it, having those
Hmm.
disruptions can be like a lot to manage, like stress wise.
Oh yes. And that's something that I guess I'm trying to be uh, more mindful of and more agile with. But it is difficult because, it's like, okay, well, I've given up my workout space and I could have moved some stuff to a different space in the house. It doesn't work quite the same. Um, but yeah,
Yeah. So it's just lessons
added.
and boundaries and knowing how much we
Mhm.
need to or want to take on at one time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. And then, so we started a business. We have our normal full time job, we have our part time business,
Hmm.
and we have kittens.
Yes.
And then we also have a YouTube channel that we are starting. So there was like, that was all like very at the same time
Yeah.
too.
Yes. And I've been, I've got the YouTube channel name and like it's created, and I've got some storylines sketched out. I haven't started recording for that yet. That's going to be over this winter break. I had to kind of push that past where I wanted, because I wanted to start it earlier in the semester, but that didn't work out. I had to make the brick and mortar facial business
Hmm.
priority because I have clients that I wanted to be able to get back in more quickly.
Hmm.
So, yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
things.
Hmm. So I've seen on the coaching side a little bit of, I say stress, but just some mention of feeling like you weren't really doing what you should be. I'll put that in
Hmm.
quotes. And just the reminder that, like, look at all you've done this just in these last few months. So it's okay if you're not doing everything 100% perfectly. So I think we need those reminders. And what do you think, like, and on that topic, it's kind of going backwards a little bit, but what would you say are some of your some things that you struggle with that sort of keep you hung up or trip you up and like mentally or physically, emotionally or whatever?
Oh, we've already talked about one, and that's having my routine disrupted. I don't do well with that. Now, I didn't have my workout room to do like my strength workouts, but I did manage to get in some other things, which we can talk about here in a second. But I also don't like feeling like I'm not doing all that I should or could. And it's not a realistic thing for any person to think that they can do all the things and do them perfectly, but sometimes I feel like I ought to be. So
Mm-hmm.
it's like, okay, well, Jessica, you could have moved your weights and stuff upstairs and you could have still been doing this,
Mm-hmm.
um, regardless of your routine being disrupted. And you could have still gotten some YouTube videos recorded. You could have done this and that. And I try not to use the word should have, because I know that's um, not a productive way to think, but I'm also a bit of a perfectionist,
Mm-hmm.
tiny bit.
Yeah, I can
Um,
relate. Makes it
yeah.
hard whenever you feel like you're not doing enough. You're like, oh, I'm
Mhm.
not being productive. But I also know you've kind of done some work in that regard too, to just make sure that you're taking time to rest
Mhm.
and have some days where you don't like have things to do necessarily, maybe beyond like housework or something.
Yes, I had tried to make that more of a priority, because I'm really good at doing. I'm not good at not doing, but for the sake of my sanity, there had
Yeah.
to be some scaling back of certain things and saying, okay, I'm not going to do anything else today or tonight. And, self care is hugely important to me. So making sure that I am incorporating that for myself, whatever that might look like in a day.
Hmm. Which just doing that in and of itself is caring for yourself and
Yeah.
having that awareness to know, like, just because I am not doing anything else today doesn't mean I am not a productive member of my household or society. And this will make me a better member of the society if I
Mhm.
take this little bit of time to give myself a breather. And it is a practice. I mean,
Mhm.
I definitely can agree that it's something that I still work on for myself.
Yeah. It's not a one and done. I will say something else that I struggled with this past semester slash season is that without not doing my strength workouts, I felt the loss of what I had gained strength
Hmm.
wise. And that was, frustrating and discouraging because I'd been doing so well and being consistent. And it's like, hey, I can curl 10 pounds now or
Hmm.
whatever. And it's like, okay, well, because I've stepped back, now I'm not starting from the ground up,
Mm-mm.
but I'm not where I was before this semester.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to swallow.
Yes, it can be. And I think, and in case I haven't said it, like as a coach, when you have been doing that work for a while, it's super easy to bounce back and you will. And I think again, it's just a just knowing that there are seasons of life
Mhm.
where your progress is going to look different. So you're going to make progress in other areas, like having more grace with yourself and being able to take more recovery time. But maybe you didn't, lift the 15-pound dumbbells for your curls that you were like aiming for. That's like a random example of a weight goal. And I've personally done that myself where, you know what, just trying to maintain right now and
Mhm.
not really worry about necessarily bumping up my weight. I just want to keep what I have. And especially when you have been lifting and working out for a while, it is easier. And I want to say this for everyone too, because I see that a lot of people struggle with this when they have to take any time off. And I've done that myself. Like I've had to go through that mental stuff myself of like, oh, I'm going to lose all my gains.
Mhm.
It actually comes back quicker and that muscle memory is there and it will come back quicker than you think. So, especially knowing what I have in store for you.
Oh,
Surprise.
surprise, Jessica.
January's program is going to have you
Okay.
pumped and ready to go.
I'm excited.
You'll
I'm
be
ready.
like, all right, you know what? Maybe, no, I'm just kidding. You're not going to say you don't like strength training. Um, it'll have you feeling like you're right back in the groove. So, and I think that's just another important key is to know when to pull back and to do the things that you can do rather than worrying about like more,
Mhm.
and then adjusting to your lifestyle. So, okay, well, we couldn't get like, we're not doing 3 to 4 strength workouts. That's okay. But can we do our midday walk? So I know that you do that throughout your day. And so I would love for you to share some of the things that you have been able to hold on to during this semester when you've kind of been feeling busier and like it's sort of been simmering in the background, like the
Mhm.
health aspect. Because it's not like you weren't working on your health, like you
Yeah.
meditate and yes.
Yeah.
So I would love for you to share some of the things that you do almost on a daily basis.
Absolutely. First of all, I'll just say that having you as my coach to say, Jessica, it's okay. You can step back. That that was essential for me mentally this semester because it was like, having that permission to do something, it's easier when it comes from someone else
Mm,
sometimes rather than just
mm-hmm,
yourself. But I did still manage to get in some walking because I've got a nice indoor track nearby. And usually several days a week, I was able to get over and walk for 20 to 30 minutes. Um, I'm pretty good about doing like some stretching or cars in my office.
mm-hmm,
Um, and then on campus, there is a twice a week yoga class that I would attend. So yeah, definitely still getting some movement in. You mentioned meditations. I don't do that every day, but I try to, especially on the days that I don't do yoga, and I do guided meditations through the Chopra app, just because that's what I personally need.
mm-hmm,
And then as far as the self care aspect of things, like the more pampering stuff, I get monthly
mm-hmm,
massages,
mm-hmm,
facials. Um, I'll take time to do like a little midweek facial treat for myself, like where I do a scrub and then a face mask or eye patches or something. And even just little things of that, like reminding yourself that you're important and you're worth the time just to sit and be. It was there was definitely still, I think, some good focus on that.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Which, just spoiler alert, we're going to bring Jessica back to talk about skincare at some point too, because her skin is flawless and she's been an esthetician for a long time and she loves skincare, loves the science behind it, loves pampering clients and teaching people about it. I know that's just like totally a little plug for you, but I mean, this is the whole point of, when was it your birthday that you were talking about that?
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
Yeah.
like me and Eric were like, do it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, so have you thought of
Yeah.
a name yet? And you're like, I'm teaching Abby. Leave me. Like, don't worry, I'll check back next week.
Yeah. And then you
Because I
did.
know
I'm
it's
like,
something
I thought
that,
about it and here it is.
yeah, yeah. I mean, it was pretty quick. I think just because I'm not saying because like like we were so encouraging, but I just know like that is a gift of yours. And so I'm really excited for you to
Thank
have that
you.
and also have that outlet,
Mhm.
from like, I know you love what you do at the school, but also having something that you really are very passionate about in like a different kind of creative way, and
Mhm.
something that is on that more pampering side of things.
Yes. It
So,
combines my love of teaching and love of skincare and love of
yes,
research all in one.
yes, yes. So fun. So I can't wait to do that. So, would you recommend, if a friend asked you, like, would you recommend a coach to a friend?
Yes.
And why, and more importantly, why would you recommend that?
Because we don't have to do it alone.
Oh,
Um,
I know.
y- I think that's too often kind of a mindset that, especially we as women, get into. It's like we can't be a strong, awesome woman if we're asking for help
Oh my
or
gosh, I
getting
know.
help. And I
Yeah,
know that's a whole nother
I know.
rabbit hole.
Yes, I know.
Um, but and I've been guilty of it myself too. But and I kind of fell into doing this with you because I know you and we're friends, but it's a priority for me now. So, when I sit down and I do my budget, I make sure I've got what I need because
Mm-hmm,
I know the value of it. Again, not just for physical health, but for mental and emotional too. And
mm-hmm,
having that one thing that's taken off my plate. So it's like I'm not trying to come up with my own workouts or program that's already done. I just have to do them. That saves me time and energy
mm-hmm,
to actually do the workouts and then, live my life.
mm-hmm. Yeah, make your YouTube channel.
Yes. Do facials, teach library.
Well, yeah, and I agree. I think that we often need, I've had to remind myself even recently, randomly, that it's okay to need help. It's okay to want help. It's
Mhm,
okay to need it. It's okay to ask for it. And it's okay to pay for it, whether that
mhm.
is a coach or therapy or yoga, a gym membership, like a
Yeah.
trainer, I suppose, because really, like, just going to a gym and getting membership doesn't mean that you have help, but it means that that option is there. And it's okay for us to need that. And
Mhm,
knowing that we are two fairly independent women,
mhm.
and just a little.
Mhm,
We've both been out of committed, like, marriage, I'll just say marriage or both divorce, for like a decade now.
mhm,
Not to say that there aren't relationships, just saying that we have been very independent for a long time. And so it's hard to sometimes put yourself in that place where you are asking for help or feel like just because I need it doesn't mean that I'm not capable of doing things.
mhm. Yeah.
But it means that I'll get where I want to go, hopefully faster if I'm asking the right person.
Yeah. And also, you have someone in your corner.
Hmm.
It's like you are advocating for me
Hmm.
and considering my best interests, even when maybe I'm not always. So that has been a huge
Hmm.
help.
Hmm. Well, good. Well, thank you very much for sharing your experience with everyone today. I appreciate it. And I love having you as a client and as a
Oh,
friend.
well, you're welcome. And thank you.
Of course. I will leave it there. And Jessica, I will see you soon. And I will see you back on the podcast to talk about skincare.
Yay.
Actually, just plug yourself right now. And where can everyone find you on Instagram for your skincare?
My Instagram handle is skin_care_smart. So skincare smart. is my skincare business, and I do have a website and Instagram, and eventually there will be YouTube and maybe some TikTok. We'll see.
Yes. Ooh, yay, TikTok. Oh, that'll be
Mhm.
fun.
We'll see.
I love it. All right. Well, thank you, Jessica. I'll see you soon.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
A very special thank you to Jessica for coming on the podcast and sharing your experience with me and your fellow crushers. All right, all right, all right. It is almost the end of 2021. Can't even believe it. Where has this year gone? And something very exciting is coming. That's right. The launch of the Radical Self-Acceptance Method is coming up. Official launch date is January 3rd, 2022. If you are tired of feeling like you are stuck at the starting line every other month of a new diet, of a new workout plan, and you get so far and then something happens and you just feel like you're constantly on and off, all in or all out, it's time to fix that. It's time to break that pattern. And you can do that in the Radical Self-Acceptance Method. Listen, it's not about the diet. It's not about the food. It's not about the workouts. It is about your mindset, and it is about digging deep and figuring out where those patterns are coming from that are keeping you stuck in a process that you are tired of being stuck in. Once you break that cycle, it is so much easier to make decisions that serve you, your health goals, and get you the body that you want. If you are truly ready to commit to yourself, I'm inviting you to apply now to the Radical Self-Acceptance Method. You can find the link to the application in the episode notes. Thank you again for joining me today. In the next episode, I'm going to be sharing more of my story and all of the self-sabotaging that I've done, and basically how the Radical Self-Acceptance Method came to be because of that. I'll see you next week. Thank you for tuning into the Crushing with Abio podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go ahead and subscribe or follow. And please leave a 5-star review while you're there. Share this podcast with any of your girl or guy friends that you know could use an extra laugh once a week. You can also find me on Instagram at abio.fit. That's ABBYO.fit. Talk soon.